food is our fuel. Unfortunately, most of us use food for reasons other than that. So why do we do it, and how can we stop? Join me for this incredibly informative conversation with my guest, celebrity dietitian and nutritionist Kim Shapira, as we discuss her simple method to a healthier relationship with food, which ultimately leads to a healthier relationship with ourselves, and that can transform our lives. Welcome to Moving Mattresses in 3-inch Heels, celebrating women and the many hats and shoes they wear. Here we will dive into the ups and downs of womanhood with humor, heart, and wisdom, empowering you every step of the way. I'm Julia Jordan, and I'm thrilled to partner with you on this journey. Now you may be asking yourself, what the heck does moving mattresses in 3-inch heels mean? Well, it's literal. I was literally moving a mattress in 3-inch heels, my favorite pair no less. And I came to the realization that not only can women do anything, we do everything. We're going to focus on 5 pillars: metabolism, meditation, mental health, menopause, and I would be remiss if I didn't add the 5th, medical. It occurred to me when I was putting these metrics together, all 5 of the words do something that most women do not, and that is start with M-E. Start with me. So I'm going to amend my previous statement. Women can do anything, and we do everything, except prioritize ourselves. But it's time to. It's time for us to start with me. If you're ready to laugh, learn, and leap into a healthier, happier you, hit that subscribe button and join our wellness family. Let's go on this journey together of self-consideration as we discover how to start with me. Welcome to Moving Mattresses in 3-inch Heels. I am your host, Julia Jordan, and today's episode is Reframing Our Food Relationship with Kim Shapira. Kim Shapira is a celebrity dietitian, nutritional therapist, and author with a bachelor's degree of science in kinesiology from Tulane University and a master's degree in human metabolism and clinical nutrition from Boston University. Kim has spent over 25 years helping people lose weight and keep it off, with a giant emphasis on keeping it off. In her private Los Angeles practice, hospitals, sports clinics, addiction centers, and universities. When she's not helping her clients take back their relationship with food, she is a wife and mother of 3 children and 3 pups. Kim often appears as a guest expert for Yahoo, Just Jenny, Sky News, and Vanity Fair, just to name a few. Her book is called This Is What You're Really Hungry For: 6 Simple Rules to Transform Your Relationship with Food to Become Your Healthiest Self. And she is the founder of the groundbreaking program, the Kim Shapira Method, which revolves around those 6 rules, all of which we will definitely talk about today. I am so glad that you are here, not only for your knowledge, but you genuinely care about people's well-being.
Yeah. Yes. A little too much, maybe more than they care about themselves in some ways.
That's an interesting point. I mean,
Yeah.
we try to help people sometimes and talk about that. I wasn't going to go there, but it's so interesting. Like, what do you do when you feel that way? How do we motivate?
I think it's been a big learning curve just for me personally, right? Like, I wanted to be healthy and I thought everybody wanted to be healthy. And I had some problems with boundaries in this idea that I really did want it more than some people did. They just wanted to lose weight. They weren't thinking past the day of the event. And so it was a learning curve for me to say, this is their journey. I'm really just there to guide them. I'm not the healer in the story. They are actually the healer. So, I'm still learning it. And I've been in practice close to 30 years. And in the beginning, it was really tough for me.
Yeah, it is, because you want to help people. And like you said, it's their journey and they have to be the healer. And people are so focused on losing weight. And I think it's partly, or a lot of it, society, social media, all that. But is that how you started focusing more on a relationship with food rather than just the weight loss.
Yeah, I never really thought about that. I just know that that was part of my story, that like I really had terrible
Mhm.
boundaries. It was, my problem was their problem.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in my own personal journey, I would say it's what I saw I needed to work on in myself. And I do believe that we're all so similar, and that we have pretty much very similar situations going on, kind of like the weather, what's out is in, what's up is down. Like we are, I would speak from like an astrological point of view, like when there's turmoil in the universe, we actually feel that in ourselves as well. So each one of us individually is also going through exactly what the universe is going through, so to speak, but based on our own lives, our own traumas, our own perspectives, it's all being played out differently. And so, yeah, I think we're all very, very similar.
I think so too. And it's, learning to understand each other and maybe what our complexities are and our differences are, and like learning from each other instead of getting frustrated. Um, Now, you talk about reframing food. And I think it's probably a fair statement to say the most dysfunctional relationship the majority of us are in is the one we're in with food, but we can't break up with
Yeah.
food. So
Well, why would we
I
want
don't want
to?
to.
Why would we
I don't
want?
want to.
Yeah, we don't want to. But it is interesting the way that you're even saying it, because it's complicated, and I think that it's only complicated because we really don't know ourselves completely. And I think that the more that we can find authentically what makes us feel right and good, the closer we can get to healing this relationship we have with food.
Mhm.
There's so many projections. They're coming from our parents when we're younger. They're even coming from our teachers, and we don't know their histories. We don't know their traumas. We don't even know where they live or what foods they like or where anything about them. They're coming from our peers, at a
Yeah.
very young age. And we don't know our peers' friends, our peers' family members. We don't know what's going on ancestral, culturally. And yet we spend 60 hours a week with these young friends of ours. So we could be seeing our favorite character on TV, having an issue with milk or lactose intolerance. These projections that we soon take on as, well, if I really love this person and they know best, must be the same for me. And so, really kind of learning how to develop a new posturing
Mhm.
where you're empowered and you feel empowered.
Speaking of empowering, the last time you and I spoke, I said to you, I eat so well all day. And then about 7 o'clock at night, the little gremlins come out, and all I want to do is eat, eat, eat. And you asked me to repeat after you, I can't eat after dinner. And I did. And it was strange because, I mean, it wasn't like a huge, like, I had a physical reaction. It wasn't like this huge, like, surge, but there was a slight surge. And I found it really interesting that I had a physical reaction. The other part was my brain's going, yeah, I can do that. That's no problem. And my body's like, no, I can't. And then you said to me, now say, I don't eat after dinner. And I will tell you something, Kim, I don't eat after dinner. And I'm not joking. I am not joking. I don't eat after dinner. So can we talk about how changing one little word to another little word can make such a big difference?
Yeah, we can. And I think that's a really valid point. I'm actually glad you had that time to have that experience, right?
Yeah.
So, what you're talking about is what I would say is this visceral
Yeah.
reaction. And our human bodies give us sensations all day long. And they're warning us of, things that could make us feel unsafe or any restrictions. And our body's job is really to keep us alive. And we don't tell
Yeah.
our organs to do their job. We don't tell our lungs to breathe, our heart to beat, our stomach to digest. We also don't tell our mind to think. But we're walking around saying, my mind is telling me food is a good idea. My mind is doing this. And we're taking it as if it's our own. And the truth is, our mind gives us 60,000 thoughts a day in response to what it sees, smells, feels, hears, and touches to help us survive every single moment in the most pleasurable way.
Right.
So if we are this really amazing electrical system that is running on fuel and it is deprived of its basic necessity, it is going to gear up and kind of tell you, we need food, we need food, we need food. You're not paying attention. It's time to eat. We need to eat. We need to eat. And we're going to throw temper tantrums until we actually can calm our entire system and say, you know what? I got you. I've got you. You've got food now. It might have come in the form of a binge, but I heard you. We took care of it. You're safe. Instead of actually listening to your body throughout the day. I mean, if I told you, I just like now pay attention to this reaction. If I said to you, we wake up every morning and we trust that we're going to find a toilet. We feel safe. We can leave the house and know we're going to be okay. Yet we don't even know where we're going to have to, where the restroom is, but we totally trust that we're going to be safe. But what if I said to you, guess what? I'm going to let you pee one time today, and I'm going to pick the time in which you get to pee. You're going to go crazy. You're going to have to want to pee right now. You're going to want to like solve this problem. And you also don't think you can do that.
Do you know what's so funny, Kim? I mean, first of all, yes. Second of all, I just finished a hormone panel and I had to urinate on a schedule because they wanted it at different times of the day. And you're right. I was going nuts the last 2 days. Like I woke up today, I'm like, thank God I don't have to do it again. So it's so funny.
Now do that with food. Now do it with food. Why would you schedule it? Why would you control your body? Why wouldn't you rather lean into what your body is telling you?
Right. And, you know, I think so much of us or all of us are afraid of change. And I think part of it is because we feel like we have to turn our whole world upside down. And you teach the total opposite. Like your method is intuitive. I would say it's user friendly. I mean, it's not intimidating. You just have 6 simple rules.
Right. Simple, not so simple, but they are 6 simple rules.
I mean, like the first one is eat when you're hungry, saying simple, not simple, because sometimes we do the opposite. When we're hungry, we don't eat. And when we're not hungry, we eat.
Right. And also people don't know what hunger feels like. We are not talking about hunger. And if we are, we're talking about starvation. We're not talking about what it means to feel hunger. I mean, could you describe hunger?
My belly rumbles.
Yeah. Keep going.
That's not really it. That's just kind of a signal.
Is it scary? Is it painful?
It's not scary and it's not painful, but our entire life, my entire life has spent saying, if my stomach does that, I must be hungry and I have to go eat. So there is like this urgency or this where you stop and that's the focus. And
well, the signal is an alarm, as it should be.
Yeah.
We need an alarm to remind us we need fuel, right? But hunger itself is not scary or painful. And yet people are so afraid to get hungry or to be hungry or to feel hunger. And I was the same way. Honestly, like there was a point somewhere, and I would say in my 40s, I'm 51, maybe in my late 30s, I had a doctor appointment and I had to fast for a blood test. And in my mind, I thought I could never do it. And I fought it my whole life. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to reject that idea. I can't do it. I'm going to die of starvation. And so on this particular doctor appointment, I did it. I was proud of myself. I got through the door. I was actually holding the food I was going to eat because as soon as they said go, I was going to eat. Okay. There's so much fear. And we make all our choices from a place of fear or trust. So here I am thinking I have to fast for this blood test. They're going to take blood. I'm literally going to die of starvation. And in this particular day, they were running late. And I was getting more and more crazed. I mean, I literally threw a full temper tantrum that I was like, you don't understand. I'm fasting. I haven't eaten. And they finally took my blood and I ate while I was getting my blood taken. And then I had some time to like reflect on it and think, that's so silly that I was like that. Ever starved to death. Right. And the more that we can like kind of understand, like, I always throw temper tantrums when I don't eat. Why? Why am I so unsafe? And then when you recognize, wait, you're actually safe. You're safe.
Yes.
And the more that you can come to this place of you're safe. I've eaten and have food around at all times. I'm totally okay. Then you realize your mind is definitely playing games with you. So the idea behind rule number 1 is to allow yourself to be hungry. Do you know how many people won't allow themselves to be hungry?
Yeah, I mean, I never thought about it because that's just a really interesting, because I never thought about being hungry is at some level, it's scary. Like we're scared even if we don't know we're scared.
Yes. Yes, because it's our basic survival is at risk. But historically, we have never starved, right? In my lifetime, I have never starved to death. Where did this fear come from? And that is, definitely real. But one eyes, wait a minute, I'm actually safe. So the idea is to get hungry, but not to stay hungry. And that's really important distinction, right? So the idea is to have to pee, but not to hold your bladder.
Right.
So it's the same reference.
Right. Your rule number 7, no, you don't have 7 rules. Your rule number 6 is get 7 hours of sleep. That was where I got my 7. And I and I laughed because you're like, sleep, the new anti-aging serum.
Yeah, it really is.
There's been studies that are not even studies so much as people coming out lately saying sleep studies were predominantly done on men when we said we needed maybe our 8 hours of sleep, and women need more sleep. What are your thoughts on that? Is it 7, or how much sleep do you typically recommend for women?
Yeah, so the average American is getting about 6.5 hours of bad quality sleep. And so good quality sleep means going to bed, being able to fall asleep, being able to stay asleep, and waking up rested. Okay. And it's really the average, the goal is between 7 and 9 hours. But I say 7 because we can't even get 7.
Right.
And we really need to be getting consistent sleep. So ideally, you want to be able to fall asleep around the same time and wake up at the same time. And when either one of these time changes, you're actually creating jet lag. So let's say you go to bed every night at 10 and you wake up every morning at 6:30. And then all of a sudden you change it and you go to bed at 8 o'clock, or you go to bed at midnight and you still wake up at 6:30. You're going to be more tired that day because you're jet lagged. And it actually takes about 3 days to recover from that sleep change.
That's really interesting, because it was like, I'm not consistent on what time I go to bed. I wake up about the same time every day. It's like around 5:30. So I don't have consistency problems in the morning, but I do in the evening. And that's good for me to know, because there's a couple times I've woken up going, why do I feel hungover? I didn't even have fun. I mean, I had water, and I did nothing. So that's kind of the feeling.
That's exactly right.
Like a jet lag.
Yeah. And when you miss or change your sleep times, your circadian rhythms, you're actually missing out on the hormone melatonin, which what it does is it's actually what creates us that feeling of drowsiness.
Hmm.
And it's kind of like when you're a baby, or when you have a baby, they always say, the pediatricians always say, don't miss the window when you see the baby yawn, because that's when melatonin is released. And if we miss it in ourselves and we override it, then we're
Yeah.
actually telling our brain to wake up, and it makes it more difficult to go to sleep. But what's really interesting about melatonin is that it's a hormone. And it's one of the most powerful hormones that is actually an antioxidant that goes into every one of our cells and cleans it. So if we miss out on this good sleep quality, we actually wake up more inflamed. And when we're inflamed or full of inflammation, we are actually less motivated to make better choices.
Wow. So that affects not only us physically, but it affects us mentally. We're not making better decisions. We're not motivated. Probably that's when we make bad decisions, procrastinate, things like that. So I've learned my lesson.
I'll drink a little more coffee.
So pick a good time to go to bed and go to bed. Got it.
What's important for you to pay attention to is that the visceral feelings again, right? So our bodies are chronically stressed, and it could be that we're stressed because we're afraid to be hungry. Could be stressed because we are hungry. It could be stressed because we're overeating. It could be stressed because we perceived, somebody is going to attack us. Could be stressed because we're in physical pain. It could be stressed because we're dehydrated. It could be stressed because we are not sleeping well. And all of this stress is what causes our body to become out of whack and ultimately lead to weight gain and hormone disruptions.
Yes, that explains so much of me. I've finally gotten on the right track and working it, but bedtime at a specific time is my new thing.
Yeah. And also keep in mind, I know you don't eat after dinner, but eating close to bed disrupts sleep.
Yeah. Important to know. It's, what is it, like 2 hours?
Three to
6 hours. Okay. Good to know. Very good. Now, rule number 2 is eat what you love.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. The whole rule is eat what you love, with the caveat that the food has to love you back. But if we go back and look at rule number 1 in completion, it was to eat when you're hungry, to take your normal portion, cut it in half, allow yourself to eat slowly, mindfully, chew your food well so it can be broken down, because it's our first form of mechanical breakdown. And then to make sure you're loving what you eat. And we want to wait 15 minutes to see if we need more food. So it is eat what you love when you're hungry. And it is to start with half. Now, when something makes a person feel sick, this can be in the form of a headache. It could be in the form of dry eyes, clearing your throat, heartburn, bloating, stomach noise, gas that's smelly, gas that's airy, constipation, diarrhea, psoriasis, eczema, fatigue, foggy brain, so many symptoms, joint pain. And so if you're feeling that and you are not thinking about the food you're eating, and it could be lemon, it could be pepper, it could be chicken, it could be ice cream, it could be anything, because we all have different levels of sensitivity or inflammation going on in our body. And we develop inflammation, like I said, from lack of sleep, from not chewing your food really well, from not eating slowly, and also from lifestyle, stress, antibiotic use, or travel, right? All these things can be disruptive and cause food sensitivities, which are temporary. They do go away and you can heal from it.
Yeah. And I have a feeling that goes in line with your third one, which is eat without distraction. I mean, so we can be aware of how our body's responding to each specific food.
Yeah. Yes. We also tend to eat while we're emotionally distracted and physically distracted. And we tend to think cravings count as hunger. And so really knowing what does my body need right now is important, which I used to think was the most important rule in all 6 of the rules, to know where your
Yeah.
mind is.
So even before you eat, there needs to be an awareness, a mindfulness,
There has to
not
be.
just during.
Yeah. And I love just asking yourself, what time zone is my mind in? Because so many people do like fishing trips or walk-bys in the kitchen, and
Yeah.
they were just in the living room or they were just in their office and they weren't even thinking about food. And yet they find themselves eating and they don't know where their mind is.
So it just mindlessly kind of, it's just grabbing something.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
What happens is our mind, remember, wants us to survive every moment in the most pleasurable way. And
right.
so maybe you got a difficult phone call. Maybe you're on a deadline. Maybe you're bored. Maybe you are hungry. Maybe you're stressed. Any feeling that is uncomfortable is going to remind your mind that you need some pleasure. And your
Mm.
hippocampus is going to say, the last time we felt this way, we ate and we felt better.
That's the thing about food. It does so much for our emotions. We eat when we're happy. We eat when we're sad. We eat when, and it just goes back to what you said before, eat when you're hungry and be mindful of it. I mean, it seems very simple, huh? But it can be difficult. Um, how do you, like you just said, we're just mindlessly grabbing something. How do we start to teach ourselves to be more mindful and not to just grab stuff and not even realize we're really even eating?
Yeah. So the definition of mindful is to know where your mind is without judgment.
Okay.
And I think so many of us go through our day without knowing where our mind is. And it's a
Mm.
practice. So even practicing meditation for 10 seconds, 30 seconds, 5 minutes of just being in the moment, practicing being in the moment, which your mind could go to the next moment or to your grocery list, but bringing it back to this moment, right, is very important. So every time you have a thought about food, which we have about 221 thoughts about food out of the 60,000 in a day. Yeah.
221 thoughts of food a day. No wonder we eat so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah. And we eat what, 3 to 5 times, but we think about food 221 times. So
Wow.
training your mind to recognize that every time you think about food, it's an alarm
Mm.
going off. And so,
Oh,
like, the example I would use is if you and I were in the middle of this conversation and all of a sudden your home alarm went off, you would say, Kim, excuse me, I got to go turn that
right.
off. And once you turned it off, you would then scan your environment to make sure you were safe. And then once you felt safe, you would come back and resume our conversation. And so,
Yes.
if you can start to see that every single thought you have about food is an alarm, it's your job to turn off the system, come back into your body, see why the alarm went off. Is it because your chest is tight? Is it because you're hungry? Is it because you're stressed? And this is an opportunity for you to reparent yourself here. You should absolutely always 100% eat if you're hungry and start with half. But you should not eat because your chest is
Mm.
tight.
Start with half. You said, and I want to get back to that, but you said something really interesting about reparenting yourself. And I had a business coach one time tell me that I needed to reparent myself because I was conditioned more so than raised. And I feel like maybe on some levels, we are all of us that way. Mine was like, I thought I was selfish for basic human needs pretty much. And so that was what he was talking to me about. But when you say reparent, I mean, this goes back to our childhood and maybe habits. And you said that way at the beginning of the podcast. This could be our ancestry. It could be just our parents. There's so much that we take with us,
Yeah.
and our
Yeah.
habits are formed really without awareness.
So, I mean, just for fun, just picture little Julia. Picture
Okay.
little 10-year-old Julia. She's adorable and she's sweet and she wants to be loved. Can you
I
picture her?
can.
Okay. Now see that she's very stressed. Notice that she's
Yeah.
stressed. And then tell her to eat because that's going to help.
Huh.
Not good. Feels abusive.
No,
Feels
it
gross.
does. Yeah.
What does little Julia need?
Yeah, like acknowledgement and appreciation.
A deep
Yeah.
breath to know she's okay and that she's safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Now picture little Julia really bored, really, really bored.
Okay.
She's just fidgeting and just nobody's paying attention to her. Tell her to go
Yeah,
eat.
why not?
Feels very abusive.
Yes. That happened to me like starting in high school, like my sophomore year, we moved and I actually gained a lot of weight. I went from like super skinny, like because I was athletic, not because didn't eat. I went probably from like a size 4 to a size 14 at my biggest. And it really was from moving, being sad and being bored and not having the things to do that I used to. So I see what you're saying. It's like we just turn to food for, I think, security and safety.
Yeah. So our rational mind knows that food is fuel.
Yeah.
When we get triggered emotionally, we then think food is comfort, joy, entertainment, the enemy. And we have to recognize that if we think food is anything other than fuel, we're not okay.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that not okay could be that we're hungry.
Right.
Because our body is going to give us sensations to say food, food, food.
And it all comes back to mindfulness is what it really sounds like.
Yeah.
You talk about each one of us standing in our own truth and being true to ourselves. And I think you were really touching on that as well today. I think there's an incredible example in your book about being true to yourself. I would love to talk about that, and then we'll discuss the Kim Shapira method and wrap things up. But in the acknowledgments of your book, and that's obviously where you thank the people that are nearest and dearest to you. There's a business relationship that you have that has been pivotal to your career, but that partnership probably wouldn't have happened if you didn't say what you said. And what you said was, you need to know me. And I was like, I love this. That is so bold. And if I recall correctly, you said that was the first time you'd ever been so bold. Where did you find that fortitude to just like bet the house on you? You bet it all on yourself.
Yeah, that's funny. That is with my literary agent, Nina. And I have to tell you, and I don't think this was in my book, I talk to the universe a lot. And I meditate as often, every day I try to meditate. Sometimes I'm not in the mood and I do it for less time. Sometimes when I'm in that mood, I need to do it 3 times the amount of time. So you have to know that the first thing, which I hope you don't mind this conversation, but I'm going to give you a little backstory. I had actually been talking to a friend of mine, Brittany Snow, and she had referred to me to this book about asking the universe questions and getting answers. And so I went home that day and I said to the universe, if I'm meant to write a book, you're going to have to give me a sign. And I'm going to give you 1 month to give me that sign. I'm going to give you 1 month to give me a bowl of oranges with peacocks. And if you can manage that sign, I'm going to write this book. Otherwise, I'm not going to spend time doing it. And so I did. I kept saying to the universe, I'm waiting for my sign. I'm waiting for my sign. 3 weeks into this, I had been at a supermarket. And now years later, I actually realized most of our signs come in supermarkets, which is really fascinating. And I learned that from The Only 3 Things, which is a great book. But so I'm at the market And all of a sudden, the woman in front of me, her elbow tips a cantaloupe, and the cantaloupe falls on the floor and rolls like 20 feet away. And in my head, I'm thinking, lady, you dropped that cantaloupe. You should be picking it up. But she didn't see that it happened. So I went to the cantaloupe and I picked it up thinking maybe I'm meant to look at this cantaloupe. And I turned it over and there was a giant peacock on it. And I thought, geez, cantaloupes are orange. This is a giant bowl of cantaloupes and peacocks everywhere. I must be getting my sign. So I ended up buying that cantaloupe that fell on the floor. And the next morning I was staring at it like in all my glee, drinking coffee, just like delighted to see my little cantaloupe with a peacock. And I noticed it was on an orange sticker. And the name of the cantaloupe is called Orange Dew. So it was actually a bowl of orange stickers named Orange Dew with peacocks everywhere. So I decided to write the book. And the reason why this is such an important story is the next day I was meditating. And I had basically come out of that meditation telling the universe, I'm ready for an agent. This is how I thought things got done. And so I was in my spin class at Soul Cycle, which I have done every Friday, like my whole life before COVID. And I was in my normal bike, which was seat 18. I had always taken this seat and always taken this class. And my teacher that day was 10 minutes late. And so I was talking to the woman next to me who I'd never seen before. And I said to her, I wonder if the teacher's coming. And the teacher said to me, of course she's coming. I'm here for her. And I said, what do you mean you're here for her? And she said, I'm her literary agent.
Stop it.
Then I was basically shaking in my boots, as you can imagine. And it took me a couple of minutes to gear up and then say to her, you need to know me. I need to know you. And she is my agent and she sold my book.
That is incredible. And it's a really good book. And I will have all the information for that in our show notes because it's a good book. I read it. I love it. It's really helpful. It's really insightful. And I love that story. Let's talk about the Kim Shapira method. It's a groundbreaking program where you take a refreshing approach to help people lose weight, improve energy, reframe food, and authentically manage emotions. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. It's so much more. Can we just talk about the program? What is it? Who's it for?
So the Kim Shapira method is for anybody who has ever suffered any trauma around their food. And it's for somebody who wants to lose weight and actually make it the goal of learning how to keep that weight off. So I work with people in groups. I work with people in private sessions, and I have a masterclass that's available and a workshop a workbook that's available on my website. And of course, I'm giving tips all day long on my Instagram, on all the social sites.
Yeah. If you want to learn more about Kim Shapira and her programs, we will have all her information listed in the show notes, including links to her website and social media. Her book is called This Is What You're Really Hungry For, which is available anywhere you buy books. Thank you, Kim. I mean, honestly, you always give such wonderful advice. You're so good at connecting dots and helping us get out of our own way. You give practical and attainable advice. In closing, what is maybe one simple rule that you would encourage people to start with?
Honestly, do whatever you can to come to a place of trusting your body, trusting yourself and the relationship you have with your body. Listen, see what happens.
Listen. That's so good because sometimes we're just so busy with everyday life and everything going on that we forget to listen to ourselves, and we certainly don't listen to our body. So that's a really important takeaway. I can't thank you enough.
Well, you asked great questions. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you taking the time. You're such a wonderful person, and thank you so much. Thank you for joining me today on Moving Mattresses and 3-inch Heels. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest tips for living your best life.
Until next time, stay fabulous, and remember, your wellness journey matters. Self-care is a necessity and it does not require an apology. I'll see you soon.